Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he bows to no one. It's Arturo Zurita.
That's actually what I should have put. Are you a Kong man? Are you a Godzilla man, Zach? We actually have not had this discussion.
You know, this is like a sensitive subject in my household, but I am a little more of a Kong person, if I must say so myself. I relate to other primates, other mammals. It's just how I empathize. I maybe it's a tribalistic instinct in me, but I feel like from your expression, you might be more of a Godzilla lady.
What's a king to a god? Like, it's not even close.
It's not I'm not in this for like fighting prowess or superiority. I'm in this for like who I feel like I could hang out with, who I could feel like
you'd
I
go down to Hollow Earth with,
relax
Kong?
with, share a banana with. You know, yeah, I would love to go hang out in Hollow Earth with Kong. I don't know where Godzilla lives. I think it's somewhere under the sea, but
wherever
I'm not going to really
wants,
survive
Godzilla.
there.
He can go wherever he wants.
I guess in a little bit we will talk Godzilla
versus Kong,
and the best movies of the first 3 months of 2021. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's Intercut Pod, and that's short for podcast. Also, be sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. It makes me happier than one of the characters in a movie says the name of the movie. You know, it turns me into the Leo DiCaprio meme.
The Leo
whenever
DiCardo.
that happens. So, yeah, the Leo DiCardo meme. Shout out to Wake Up Writing for leaving a 5-star review.
Thank you.
Writing, wish Amanda was on every episode. Love these three. You know, Amanda's a busy person doing a lot of awesome things. We're just happy that she's able to come and hang out with us some of the time, but we'll hope you enjoy hanging out with us in between and have some fun when she's on the next time as well. But why don't we get right into it? Let's start the show the way we start it every week here with what we're watching. Art, let me ask you, can there be 2 Alpha Titans?
No. And I think that was clear by this movie that has a definitive winner. Won't go into spoilers here because I don't know how many people have been able to see it. You saw it on HBO, right? Along with everybody, or most of the other people have seen it. The show times have sold out like crazy. Now, here's the thing. I've seen some show times where it's like there'll at least be one other person in there. And my thing isn't even like, you can be fully vaccinated, you can be fully everything. You cannot go back to the theaters during allergy season. It does not matter if you're immune. It does not matter if your blood can defeat COVID-19 when it comes in. The looks that you will get, there will be another brawl in the theater if you're in there with somebody else sniffling and sneezing. This is a movie that I would have given a combo price to, dude. The visual effects, the sound effects, all that stuff. I've been up and down with Adam Wingard for a while. I'm a big fan of what he did with The Guest. I know a lot of people are split on Your Next. I enjoy it. I don't think a lot of people were fans of Death Note. So when it came to adaptations, you know, people were like, very iffy on it. Same thing with, what was the other one he did? Blair Witch. I did not enjoy Blair Witch. But I did enjoy what he did with Godzilla and Kong. I had a great time with it.
Yeah, it's been interesting because he is this guy who developed a reputation for these lower budget horror thriller kind of movies, and I think people were really excited for him to be one of these guys who got plucked into the studio system and was given these bigger budgets. And it's been a little bit of a rocky start to his like big budget career, but he keeps getting shots, and I don't know, I think at least in this one, like there's the understood the assignment meme going around right now, and this is a movie that understands the assignment. You know, it's not high art. The dialogue is extremely cheesy, but in the way that I think you want from these movies. I really love the way that Rebecca Hall leans into some of these stupid things she's supposed to say, but like ultimately the effects deliver the kind of spectacle that you want from a movie called Godzilla versus Kong. You know, when you see Kong jump with like axe in hand coming
It's
at
good, bro.
Godzilla. There's just something viscerally thrilling about that. And yeah, it's not a movie that's going to like change your life or make you think differently about other things. It's not a movie that's even really going to surprise you, I would say, but it's pretty enjoyable on just the show me
Popcorn
things that I
blockbuster.
can't see elsewhere. The big type of blockbuster that is particularly we have gotten so few of in the last year or so.
So were you happy with the results? You want a rematch? What are you looking forward to? Do you think that Toho should come in and extend that contract?
I think that ultimately the scales were not really ever really that fair. There's a lot of
It was a clean fight.
Fighting in the middle of the ocean is difficult, and then there's all the pressure from the I don't know.
Getting assists from the humans sometimes doesn't necessarily.
The humans
count.
aren't really assisting anybody. The humans are definitely not helping much here. And yet they keep trying. That's the thing I never understand about these movies. How many missiles do you fire at Godzilla before you're like, you know what?
It's not really helping.
This isn't helping anybody, and we're probably wasting a lot of money in the process. Yeah, it's fun. I didn't really have that much invested in who won either way. I think Godzilla... I actually think Kong won the movie in terms of memes, so that's what I care about, right?
I will agree with you. Kong... I don't know how much more spoilers. I feel like if people wanted to see it, they've already been able to see it because it is online. But it is definitely that movie where, while they does choose a definitive winner, and it's been interesting to see people argue about it because the original has been divisive. To a lot of Japanese fans, they feel that somebody won that fight. Then the way that it's kind of cut up for America, they felt somebody else won that fight. And there's this whole history rooted in, the property of Godzilla with Toho, and then obviously with King Kong. But while one is definitely the winner in the movie, the other one gets more scenes. The other one has the heart of the story. So it was an interesting decision that they decided to go with there. Again, because Toho's contract is up with Legendary. So I know they want to continue this series. I know that they want to bring in a lot of other monsters. I hope they do. But if this is the finale, I think at least it goes out with a bang.
Yeah. And, there's a clear appetite for these movies, a surprising appetite in some ways, in that Godzilla vs. Kong pulled in $350 million globally.
Dude,
it also pulled in $69.5 million domestically over its opening weekend, $10 million more than Tenet took in last year, despite the movie being available on HBO Max.
When people ask us, are theaters dead? And I'm like, I don't think. I mean, some of the business decisions that are being made really hurt, but people will always want to go. They will always want to go.
Yeah, and especially a movie like Godzilla vs. Kong, I think people know that if that's an experience that you care about, you want to see that on the big screen.
Which is also bad.
I don't have that. What do you mean?
If studios see that this is the movie that's making more than the horror film that also came out alongside The Weeknd, right? I can't even remember the name of it, right? But even then, that's a horror movie. We know horror movies will always be released no matter what. But if they're seeing that, Godzilla, the movie that has this much effects, that has all these different things, that pushes what you and I said at the beginning of it all, which is at the end of this, theaters will still be open, but it's going to be the chains. Theaters will still be open, but what they're showing aren't the independent movies. Those are going straight to streaming. So as much as I love Godzilla versus King Kong and I want to see it in a theater, its success is a good thing for the blockbusters at the end of the day,
Yeah. And I don't know if a movie that I'm more interested in seeing in a theater, maybe that's like a Nomadland or something.
They ain't even released those numbers.
Survive the same way, exactly, with a simultaneous streaming and theaters release. But these movies that do bring a lot of people out, I think will continue to, because
it'll always be there.
The best way to see it, if that's what you care about. And also, I think there is, for some people, just this hunger to get back into theaters, because for so many people it hasn't been an option for so long. So I'm curious to see what the rest of 2021's box office results look like, and it's particularly these movies that do get released on HBO Max simultaneously as they're in theaters. But yeah, the theatrical options are dwindling. Something that took over Twitter briefly is the closing of the famous ArcLight cinemas in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
ArcLight also in charge of the Cinerama Dome, the very iconic
Beautiful
looking theater that it is is showcased in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of the many iconic Hollywood sites. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on those theaters closing and what the eulogizing on film Twitter has been like.
Well, have you ever been?
Yeah, I've been to ArcLight when I was in LA.
What'd you watch?
I think that the last thing that I saw there was like the Oscar shorts. That was the season that I was last in LA. But yeah, honestly, it's a little bit of a blur to me. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was whatever Sundance it was. Right before we went to Sundance, we saw Glass there.
Oh.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice,
so
that would have been the last one that I saw, and it was, yeah, it's a beautiful theater. It's fantastic, and I think ArcLight itself is a very nice chain. They keep their theaters very clean. Expensive, yes, but they have a prime picture quality. I was able to also catch my rewatches of Parasite and Portrait at the one that we have here in Chicago. That's why it sucks. I believe you guys have one in New York, right? I think.
I don't know if we do. Maybe we do.
That'd be crazy.
I haven't been.
Like I can't. I don't remember it, but I feel like how could New York not have one? I think it's a really big blow. I know that they're waiting to see if somebody else is going to pick it up. Another theater that also really hurts for me is the Navy Pier Theater. I can't remember who owned it at the beginning of it when it opened. I want to say 80s, 90s, but I know a couple of years ago AMC bought it. They fixed it up, and that was a beauty. That is true IMAX here over here in the city. And it shut down, obviously, because of a lot of the stuff that's been closed, and Navy Pier still isn't open. But my biggest worry is, with all of these theaters that are there, I don't think the Dome is going anywhere. But I know they want to build a shop in Navy Pier, which means that theater is gone, which means nobody else can buy it. And that's one of the biggest worries. These theaters, if you've been around for a long time, and, we're having this discussion now, we'll be having this discussion 10 years, 20 years from now. Sadly, that's just the way that business goes, that these theaters will be there. They'll just be owned by different companies. I just hope that the buildings still remain, and I hope that it goes to someone who cares about it. Because I know that's been the big debate is, will a person pick it up? Will a Netflix pick it up? Will a company pick it up?
Right.
I don't know if you have a preference, if you're rooting for something.
Well, there's the sentiment going around on film Twitter, at least, that all these filmmakers are expressing their sadness about it, including a guy who just got apparently $100 million from Netflix to make Knives Out 2 and 3.
So
it'd be nice if Rian Johnson could make some kind of investment to save the Cinerama or something like that. Likelihood it's probably going to be Amazon or Netflix who picks this up. And they are operating the Paris Theater in New York right now, and I'm thankful that they were able to keep it alive when a lot of people thought that theater was going to close. Yet, all they're showing are Netflix movies. Right now they're showing, Trial of the Chicago 7. It's like, I don't know.
It would be cool to see a group of filmmakers.
Yeah, I just think that would be like a worthy investment for people who want to support this iconic theater. The thing, though, that it makes me think about is there are all these options in LA. Like, that's one of the things that's wonderful about being in LA.
Yeah.
If you are a person who loves movies, is they have all these repertory theaters and places like that. But it feels like elsewhere in the country, all those places are starting to dwindle out, and it sucks that even in the heart of the film industry, it's getting worse. But for the people on the peripheries, the theatrical experience is becoming more and more difficult to come by, particularly outside of something like an AMC, which, as we know from experience, is not as dedicated to showing you a high quality product as a place like the ArcLight. So not only are we potentially losing access to like indie cinema or whatever, but we also might be losing access to pristine quality and good projection and sound that's properly calibrated.
I see what you mean now. So, yes, 100%. That's the biggest problem when you get to a corporation. It's that they know you're just going to be there. You're going to come in no matter what. Both you and I have been to these theaters where they do not care for the quality to be the best that it could. But damn, wouldn't it be nice seeing that drama that happened with Tarantino and Disney fighting over the one Cinerama, the Dome itself, because there's only 2 theaters there, I believe, at that ArcLight, and how he couldn't get it because Disney blocked it out for Star Wars. It would be great if he just bought it. He already bought the Beverly. Buy this one as well. It would be really cool. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man.
We'll see. Another movie that made its return to theaters and I believe is available on VOD already is Nobody. I know you talked a little bit about this movie in your new Let Me Explain video, the action film starring Bob Odenkirk as a retired guy turned
John Wick,
activated killer again, turned John Wick. We could call it for what it is. Did you? I know you liked this one.
Fun.
How much do you like this in the hierarchy of these new age, middle-aged action man movies? We have our Takens, we have our John Wicks. Is this in the center? Is this low? Is this high? What do you think?
It's good center. I'd say it's pretty good center. Yeah. It's not as low as what the Bruce Willis movies that have been coming out of the last 5 years. You could definitely tell there's a lot of heart in it. He trained himself for it, and I think that's one of the more enjoyable aspects of it. While it's not as, crazily creative compared to some of the other choreography that we've seen in films or even the lore, it is the first one of what I feel may be a franchise, considering, these are the same people who did the John Wick series in terms of the writing. The dude who did Hardcore Henry is the director here. So it's like, it's your fun popcorn action flick. You go, you watch it, you have a good time with it. By the end of the year, you'll be like, oh, that's right, Nobody did come out earlier in the year. You don't really forget about it, but it's one of those ones that you enjoyed it while you were watching it. And I could see them extending it, but I'd be interested to see where else they could take this lore, how they'd be crossing over with, I guess, other people, depending on how much they're able to expand on it. But
yeah,
did you catch the screening link?
I did. I thought it was enjoyable. I really like Bob Odenkirk, and I think he does bring a certain charm to these types of roles. He's become quite a good actor.
He's dope, dude.
Especially with age. And he's just, he's like a really interesting screen presence. I think he really gives you the right energy for this guy who kind of is having that sort of midlife crisis in terms of he's not the person he remembers himself to be.
Yep.
The action is fun. I don't know if it's quite as hard hitting as a John Wick in certain ways, because you can I think you can see the ways in which it's choreographed, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't feel as seamless as maybe some other action movies.
For sure.
But in a lot of the ways that I found Godzilla vs. Kong to be fun, I found this to be really fun in that it just delivers you like a high quality, inventive action experience. It's it's almost like, I like when a movie can do the kind of Jackie Chan thing of, I'm just going to use the environment around me to highlight what badass things I can do, instead of just doing the same three things over and over again, And I think when this movie gets inventive, it's really fun.
Mm-hmm. And he hurt himself. That's one of the things. He's like, I wanted to get hurt. I wanted to do all these different things. And he says he wants to make it into a comedy. Like, I know this one was a little bit more on the drama, but he wants to do that type of Jackie Chan where it's not just action, it's action comedy. He said Liam Neeson called him up and was like, hey, I got to retire, man. You got to take it from me. So I was like, all right, Bob, time for you to step up. Yeah, I'd be interested to see more.
Yeah, and it would be really cool if we get some kind of like Expendables team-up movie with Keanu and Charlize and whoever else they want to bring into
and they
this
said Mary
John Wick
Elizabeth
world.
Winstead. She's also training with the same people for another movie that's going to be coming out on Netflix, so let's go.
Yeah, could be the next team-up movie. And just briefly, I wanted to mention Thunder Force, since it's a movie and it is out on Netflix.
Dope.
Probably a lot of people are going to see it. I defended... I'm already forgetting the Super Intelligent name of the last movie that she did. Super Intelligent?
Yeah, you did do that.
I defended that one when it dropped on HBO Max because it's relatively charming and harmless and has a couple laughs in it, but, that to me was like absolutely the best that the Melissa McCarthy, Ben Falcone team up has brought us, and this is like a really great example of why it is such a weight on the American studio comedy, because this is just such a let-in movie, absolutely barren for jokes, just waiting and hoping that somebody will do something genuinely funny and not just, flail wildly hoping to land on something comedic. It's such an underwhelming movie in terms of its approach to trying to lampoon or even play into this whole superhero narrative. It just feels so lazy in the way that Ben Falcone directed comedies particularly feel lazy. And like, yeah, sometimes that'll leave you an idle laugh here or there. The fact that Jason Bateman exists
with lobster hands
brings a level of charisma to this movie, but it's very minimal. And it just leaves me thinking, like, how much better the world of comedy might be had Melissa McCarthy just married Phil Lord or Chris Miller.
Don't do it like that. Damn, bro. Okay, look. Her and her husband, Ben, have made Tammy. They've made The Boss. They made Life of the Party. Decent twist in that one. I ain't like Superintelligence and Now Thunder Force. Is it a great track record?
But you see why? You can see why I would think Superintelligence might be the best of that bunch, though. Right?
I see it, but like I wouldn't even use the word best. Like I would just be like, it is a movie in the bunch.
It's a relative term.
I agree with you with Thunder Force. I know that she did SNL, and literally this was just an old classic SNL sketch done to death because it takes place in Chicago, and it is just the same The Bears joke over and over again. It is the same, like, Chicago is a great city. And look, I thought some of those jokes were pretty funny. You know, she has this moment where she's arguing about how Chicago's number one, and you guys just disrespect it. That's a very Shy City thing to do. But it's literally that SNL sketch through and through because you're not talking about any other teams. It's just her just saying the Bears, the shuffle. And it's like, it's very stuck in that one moment and repeating that joke over and over, waiting for those laughs. It's on Netflix. I can't complain too much.
It has the same lack of momentum that a lot of SNL skits have.
Easily.
In that they just kind of enter a scene and wait for some funny line to happen.
It was also very loud because we were watching this one at night, and it's like a lot of the jokes rely on her screaming, which, sure, more power to you. But you know when Apple says you could reduce the loud noises, the loud sounds? Yeah, I didn't really do much with that, so we had to finish watching it the next day. But yeah, it's a movie that is out, and it being on streaming, I think, is a much better place to enjoy it if you wanted to, because I definitely would have been more upset if I was at an AMC theater watching this.
Absolutely. Some movies are destined for streaming in that way. So that's what we've been watching lately. Let us know what you've been watching in the comments or on YouTube or by shooting us an email. The address for that is intercutpod@gmail.com. Let's get to even better movies for our topic of the week, which is the best movies of 2020's first quarter. We made it 3 months into the new year. Crazy to think about that we've already gone through 3 months of movies, 2 big film festivals, a whole bunch of new releases. And, 2021 so far has been an unexpectedly strong start. I think largely thanks to 2 things. One, we've talked about how a lot of movie theaters aren't open right now, so studios aren't able to kind of release their dumpuary movies in the hopes of just making some money. So we've been saved a few movies like that. And also the extension of the Academy Awards deadline to the end of February has pushed a few Oscar contenders into this year. So we've had some of the movies that are nominated for Best Picture even released within the last 3 months. It's made for some really interesting movies, a few under the radar gems that we wanted to spotlight at some point. So we're going to run through the 20 best movies of this year so far. And starting off, we got a tie at number 20 between Nobody, a movie we just spent a bunch of time on, and another relatively new release, Happily, a dark romantic comedy starring Carrie Bechet and Joel McHale, about a couple that have been married happily for years, but get a mysterious visit from a stranger that causes them to suspect one of their friends might be behind it. I thought this is this was an interesting under the radar movie from Ben David Grabinski that has a lot of really funny moments, but also this very sinister edge to it. It kind of feels like it's constantly on the verge of tipping into a horror movie. I really like the dynamic between Carrie Bechet and Joel McHale. I like a lot of the supporting players in this movie. You have Natalie Easy, Paul Scheer, Stephen Root, Natalie Morales, Kirby Howell-Baptiste, a bunch of people that I really like are in this movie. Art, I think you like this one as well, right?
It's one of those where it's like it's difficult to recommend it because you know it's going to be a mixed bag type of movie where people are either going to want a little bit more from the plot, or some people may have wanted a little bit more to, you know, the themes of what it's going for. I really enjoyed the movie for like just the discussion, because it's definitely one of those where it's not going to answer everything. It just wants to put a bunch of characters into a scenario where they all have to kind of just open up and go at it. A more direct version of this would have been it's a Netflix movie, I believe. I'm blanking what it's called right now, but it's like the dinner party. Maybe? Not even the overnight. It's like the dinner party or something. It's got a cell phone right in the middle. I'm blanking on it, but someone will probably know it in the comments.
We'll put it in the edit.
It's on Netflix. I believe it may be a Spanish film. I know it's in a different language and it's dubbed. And it's about all these people who come in. They all leave their phones, and this dinner party ends up opening up everybody's like secrets and confessions, and they go at it. It's a you know, like very tense drama of these friends. This is the same thing, but with like a almost supernatural element kind of going on with this couple who's so happy, way too happy, nobody else is comfortable, and kind of that relationship type story when you compare all the couples in one room and the different aspects of them, and what would happen if everybody's truth was out there. How would you confront that? Because it's like everybody also knows things about the other couples, but they never open up about it.
Yeah. It's also just particularly hilarious that the central conceit of this movie is that their friends can't stand that they love each other.
Which is funny.
Like, I love that that's sort of like the inciting incident of this movie.
So, yeah. I'd say put it on your radar. Definitely maybe more as a stream. I'm sure it's going to be available on a service very soon. But if you check out the trailer and you think it kind of interests you, give it a watch as a good little rental.
Absolutely. Number 19 is Zack Snyder's Justice League. It wasn't my vote that got it on here.
We have a whole list on this, by the way. We'll have the link down below. So this is just everything aggregated between the ratings that we've done so far for these movies. I have a couple. I don't know.
We're collaborating on this list. We have to make some sacrifices to our own tastes. So
by the halfway list, I think only 4 of these other than the 20 is going to be on there. But Justice League's clearly one of the biggest ones that has been released. People loved this one way more compared to the original cut of it. I don't know what the end result ended up being for, you know, the conversions for HBO Max in terms of this movie, how the box office really did. I know the supposedly consensus from Warner Bros. Was they were not going to continue it. Good luck with that. The movement's going to go on forward anyways. I am curious to see them expand the story, because as much as this fleshes out what we didn't get in the original theatrical cut, it's still only part 1 of 3. So we're still missing a little bit here. So you finished the movie, but you haven't really finished the story. That's all I'll say about it.
Yeah, somehow part 1 of 3 is 4 hours long.
Well, and it's also BBS and Man of Steel. I love it.
Number 18 is another movie that I think you liked a little bit more than I did, Malcolm and Marie.
I hate this movie.
From writer-director Sam Levinson. There's a lot that's really interesting in this. When I reviewed it on Letterboxd, I said that I think this movie is full of really good and really bad writing, because there are parts of this movie that jump off the page and are riveting, and monologues where the actors just are like, it's like a whole charcuterie. It's so meaty. But there's also moments where you're kind of rolling your eyes at how like nakedly Sam Levinson is putting himself into this role. What did you like about Malcolm and Marie?
I hated their performances. In terms of, I felt no chemistry between these two. I think they're both really good actors. They're going to have long careers ahead of them. I did not feel like they were a couple. I definitely felt like they were friends who really got along on set and were trying their hardest to take Levinson's script and do their own thing with it. I do think it's a lot more collaborative than a lot of critics have given it, I guess, kind of merit for, in thinking that it's just completely Levinson. It definitely is mostly Levinson.
In parts.
Yes. But what I like the most about it is how cringy it is. Surprisingly, the cringe of it is what makes it good. It's how he's wearing it all on his sleeve, and it's embarrassing. And it makes you wonder, like, yo, you probably should have done this as an interview. vented it in an interview. That could have made that 90-minute long just vent session, but you made it into a movie instead.
Could have been a great profile in GQ or something.
For sure. But then he does the interview and people are like, what are you complaining about? Go put it in your art. So he puts it in his art and then he's got it in his art. It's like, you know what? You should have done an interview. Go do the interview. And it's going to be back forwards and backwards. I just love the verb of pulling a Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
I think every dude at some point has definitely been heard by their neighbors trying to explain to their partner about something and then just going on and on and on and on. But at a certain point, you realize that it really is just Sam Levinson complaining and you're like, yo, homie, relax, take it easy. But I am curious to see what they do next. I'm more so kind of curious to see how Zendaya, when it comes to her producing, because I think they're all producers on this as well.
Right.
And because it's self-funded, let's see what the next project is. Let's see what else you could put out there that's not so much a vanity project, which it is. I don't think you can ignore that. I think trying to pretend like it's something else other than that hurts the movie. Dive deep into that, know what it is, but then make something different on the next one. Because I think this was also a quarantine film that they did. So
yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a lot to like about what they got out of such a simple setup, right? 2 actors, one location, basically made in probably just a couple months, and it's compelling if nothing else. So I'll definitely give it credit for that. Number 17 is a movie that only you, the two of us, have seen. It's Breaking Fast, which you caught back at New Fest late last year.
Yes, sir.
About Mo, a practicing Muslim living in West Hollywood, who is navigating life post-heartbreak when he meets a guy who wants to break fast with him during the month of Ramadan. Like I said, we seen it a few months ago, and you can go back to that video for a fuller thing. But Art, what stuck with you months after seeing Breaking Fast?
just a cute little rom-com, while at the same time just juggling different perspectives. That's the beauty of it, because it's not just a gay man in America, it's a gay Muslim man. So it's not just the culture within his own ethnicity. It's also an entire religion, and I love just the different conversations that they're able to have within the movie, and I thought it was quite enjoyable. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and how what you think about the characters too.
Yeah, I think I still have a link to this, so I'll have to catch up, especially now that it made our list. Number 16 is I Care a Lot.
Did you finally catch it?
I haven't caught it.
Come on.
Yeah. Maybe I'll catch it and leave for a little 30 seconds in the edit here of what my thoughts were. But I'm curious to check it out. You've told me a lot of interesting things about it.
Yes, it's a very ugly movie, but you can. But if that's what it's trying to be, can you fully hate it for that? It's trying to put a mirror into your face and be like, oh, you think these are ugly? Yeah. Well, you praise all these other movies that do it and such. And again, I still have so many problems with the script, but as we covered in LME streams, that there was a certain point where I was rewatching it, right, to see those problems in the script, and they're still there.
Right.
But that causes you to look closer into the script and you see what he's trying to do. She won the award for it. I think they all give great performances. There's a scene with Chris Messina in this movie. It's so good. There are moments in this film that make it like damn near close a film that would have been in the top 10. I don't know, top 10, but one of the top films of the year. Mm-hmm. But what it doesn't realize is that while people love Wolf of Wall Street does this thing where it doesn't show you the people who he's hurting. Here, I think, and he does it on purpose, a director, he wants you to see how ugly it is, and he kind of looks at you and he goes, yeah, I know you're offended at home that she's doing these things to the elderly, but what are you doing about it? And while you think that that's pretty big, you then go, well, I'm not winning Golden Globes for it for sure. That's what I'm not doing. So there is that.
I'm still curious about this one. I've heard a lot of different opinions on it. Yeah, okay, we'll get into it. One that we have talked about on Intercut is our number 15 pick, Our Friend, about a couple that finds out that she's been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and then they get one of their friends to move in and help support him through it. I think it's got really excellent performances from Jason Segel, Casey Affleck, and Dakota Johnson. I know you like this one a little bit more than I did, but it's affecting and definitely, I think, one of the more heartfelt movies that we've gotten so far through 2021.
Man, this is the one I would have seen at Evanston Cinemark. Rest in peace.
Right.
It closed down. So now people can stream it at home, and hopefully it gets a good little streaming release. I think that it is a decent drama based on a true story. If anything, we also discussed how the journalist himself, when he wrote about this story between him and his wife, his writing is just so much more effective than what the movie tries to portray. And again, that's just because of maybe how prolific these actors were. And if they weren't as prolific, it would have been maybe a little bit better. But at the same time, Jason Segel is the best part of the movie. I think he brings in a charm that we've known Jason Segel for. And he definitely is going to be, I think, even funnier the older he gets. Because he kind of just has that grandpa, older uncle humor to him. And that is literally everything that he dives into in this movie. But I enjoyed it. It's sad. It's a sad movie, but almost kind of feel good at the same time. I would recommend, though, like we talked, The Climb. If you want a movie that's kind of similar to this but done extremely better, The Climb.
Yeah. I think there's aspects of the movie that The Climb maybe does a little bit better. And there's aspects of this movie that I think are also, going to resonate with people who maybe feel like they've gone through something similar. I just don't know if it's the most unique telling of this kind of story.
That's fair.
At number 14, we've got To All the Boys, Always and Forever.
This is an algorithm thing here, bro. This is an algorithm thing where it ends up here, okay?
It's got 2 votes. Not one of them is from me. So you got to explain to me how this movie made it to 14.
The algorithm, but also it's cute. I don't think any out of the trilogy, the first one I still think is the best. Then I'd say it's this one.
I really like the first one.
Then there's the middle one. I thought it was a cute little trilogy. I like how they were able to become a hit through Netflix. It showcased a lot of the potential that you can have with these movies. I mean, talking earlier with theaters, this is proof that an entire franchise can be released and be super, super successful in every way, shape, and form, from its marketing to its merch. There's one interesting thing I will say about this, because I'm not going to talk about the story. I made a whole video on it. Definitely go check that out. They're doing this thing where the entire set design, you may consider this ugly, Zack, but they do the set design so that you can purchase it, which obviously has always been done. But like the entire point of how her room is constructed and everything that she wears is so you can buy it. And I don't know if you know this, but I know YouTube, Amazon has been pushing it as well for Prime, but YouTube's also been pushing it. Matter of time till Netflix gets it, where you can pause and point to anything that's on the screen in her room, what she's wearing, and you will be able to purchase it.
Yeah.
Which means what starts changing in production?
I mean, the art direction at the very least, but I'm surprised this movie isn't streaming on Prime, not Netflix, if that's one of the considerations.
I mean, at this point, it's like a thing where you'll just have GQ run the article of like, get her clothing. Here's all the Target collection that you can get from there. But I definitely see that as being one of the biggest things that it's going to be pushing. We will be in the future. YouTube's rolling it out. I know I keep getting the notifications on how they're pushing that, and where you'll be able to pause the screen and kind of do the X-ray thing where you can click on anything. So maybe it was way ahead of its time, Zach. And that's why it's number 14.
Yeah, it's predicting the future of entertainment.
And consumerism.
I guess that's a good argument. Number 13 is a movie that I liked more than you.
There you go.
Raya and the Last Dragon. We talked about this on a previous Intercut, so I don't think we need to get too deep into it, but it's an enjoyable, cute adventure story. There've been comparisons to other movies and TV shows that, some are more legitimate than others, but like I like the lore behind it. I like the different characters that we meet along the way. I think there's a lot of really good vocal performances here. I like Awkwafina a lot more than you do in this role. I just think it's enjoyable. It's not anything that's like top tier Disney animated studios, but it was a good time and something that I think that kids would really enjoy too. So
beautiful, good action.
Yeah. Number 12 is Acasa, My Home, one of the documentaries we've brought up a lot on this podcast since I think I first caught it at Sundance, about a family that lives in the Bucharest Delta and what it's like when the government forces them out of their homes. There's so many different things about this documentary that stand out, from the absolutely exquisite cinematography to the really gut-wrenching story it tells of these children who are are removed from the lives they knew and thrust into a society they don't understand. I think there's a lot of levels to this piece. I'm hoping more people catch up with it because I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it. Just you and me, man. We're the ones holding down the fort for Acasa My Home.
If you like Nomadland, you should be watching Acasa My Home. That's what I'll say. You should definitely be catching Acasa My Home.
Fair argument. Number 11 is Little Fish, about a couple that tries to hold their relationship together as a memory loss virus spreads and threatens humanity. Cute romantic comedy set in like a sci-fi world starring Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell, two up-and-coming actors who I like quite a bit. And I think, they've got their kind of like Notebook-ish movie on their rise up, because a lot of these young actors get some kind of romance on the way up. And I think this is one of the better ones that I've seen of these, somewhat low budget romance movies. I think largely because the world is so interesting around them that this movie is holding the weight of two different stories, and I think it does both of those stories a service along the way.
Decent. And shout out to Apples, the other movie that we also caught during the festival run.
Yeah, whenever that one is going to be available, I'm excited for more people to catch it.
All right, let's see your top 10 here based on this rating algorithm.
Future Zack breaking into the podcast for just a minute here. We'll get back to the list shortly, but if you want to support the Intercut podcast, I want to remind you all about patreon.com/intercutpod, where for as little as $1 a month, you can not only become a patron of the podcast, but get access to exclusive patron benefits, whether that's an early look at our episode outlines, or exclusive Discord channels on the Intercut Discord, or even join our monthly hangouts and get to chat with me and Arturo. You can do all of that through signing up at patreon.com/intercutpod. Your support means a lot, and we want to thank the Academy members, Andrew Christensen, Tushar Sharma, Ewan Graff, Whatsamata, and Awkward for their continued support of our show. Let's get back to the best movies of 2021 so far. Getting into the really good movies here with the top 10, starting off with the documentary Some Kind of Heaven, Lance Oppenheim's look at the villages in Florida. Just it's talking about exquisite cinematography and documentaries. This one is so uniquely shot. It simply does not look like pretty much any other documentary or movie, frankly, that I've seen. But it also gives you these really interesting profiles of these different people, sort of stuck in the purgatory of a paradise-like scenario. Art, what do you think about Some Kind of Heaven?
Lance Oppenheim is that dude. We also have our buddy Chase. He has actually, I think, been collaborating. Like, he went down there to the actual villages and was filming with some of the people who were in the movie. So I think he's working on some footage of the craziness that is down there. But it's interesting that he even got in there because, again, this is the story of this place in Florida where it is just senior citizens. And just the people that he's able to kind of learn about and seeing how they live there. I think he's a fascinating documentarian, especially when it comes to following people and how they live in their habitats or how they're forced to these certain places. He's got a bunch of shorts that I also recommend, so definitely go through his IMDb.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's definitely one that I'm hoping is still there halfway through the year.
I feel like the documentary is a little bit like, because we in America are familiar with these types of retirement communities and stuff, but it's a little bit like somebody going to a foreign country and filming, the subculture that we have no idea about, the way that
that's
he treats
Florida.
The villages.
That's
true too. That's true.
It's also produced by Darren Aronofsky, so if you needed another stamp of approval, there it is.
Yeah. If our cosign isn't enough, Darren Aronofsky's should be. Sticking with documentaries at number 9 is MLK
Very
FBI.
Nice.
Sam Pollard's look at the history between the FBI's surveillance of Martin Luther King Jr. Just a really comprehensive look at a fascinating subsection of history of, two of these extremely fascinating figures in Martin Luther King Jr. and J. Edgar Hoover, the battle between them in a way, and obviously being you know, the ways in which J. Edgar Hoover is just being ridiculous in his overstepping of boundaries in order to pursue MLK based on these paranoid ideas. It's a really it's an extremely professionally well done documentary in terms of just giving you everything you feel like you want to know, right? Like, this is the best version of telling this kind of story that I can imagine.
Perfect use of archives. Just some of the best quotes, some of the best inserts, and like you said, just being able to put you in that period in time, not as a reflection, but like actually showing you the mindset of how people were viewing the scenario, and it's completely different than how we see it now. During that time, everything was reversed. There was no Martin Luther King Day that was going to be happening during that period in time. But yeah, I'd highly recommend this one. I don't to put some other documentaries over here, because I believe that's the last documentary that we have on here. I believe
we got one more.
Do we? All right, I'll save it. I'll save it till the next one. Oh, we do have one more. Ooh, okay. Sorry, my bad. Continue.
No worries. No worries. At number 8, another movie that I haven't caught yet. It's on Amazon. Herself, a young mother who escapes her abusive husband and fights against a broken housing system. I believe this one is from Ireland.
Yes.
And this premiered 2 Sundances ago, so it's kind of been out there for a little bit, but got a small release on Amazon. Art, what did you think about Herself?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good movie about this woman who, after not having housing, the whole community comes together, and that's like been a really big thing that we've been seeing come from Ireland in the movies. Even South by Southwest had a movie called the one with Andrea Riseborough. I'm blinking. Here Before has a little undertones with that. Vivarium from last year. All of these Irish movies have been carrying this undertone when dealing with the housing crisis that they have over there. And my only big issue with this, I know Alina liked it a lot more, and that's how it's this high on the list, was the music with it. I think the movie definitely carries that energy of, being able to do something on your own with the community, because the actress herself also wrote the movie. So there's definitely that do-it-yourself type attitude that the movie carries as she builds the house herself. I thought that was a cute little movie. Definitely check it out on Prime if you're interested. But that music's, the way that they mix in the score, I hope that got fixed by the time it got released on streaming. But nonetheless, pretty solid.
Number 7 is Pieces of a Woman. We talked about this in some detail earlier this year on Intercut, so you can head back to that discussion and see what we said. But, the latest movie from Cornel Mundrusco, I think, has what could be argued are maybe the most compelling 30 minutes of a movie so far this year in that opening. I mean, it reminds me almost of like the opening to the Robert Zemeckis Denzel Washington movie Flight, in that like it just throws you into the sequence that right away you want to like grab the ends of your chair and you can't look, you can't breathe in some ways. Not just what is happening in the opening of that movie, but how it's executed. The pitch perfect performance from Vanessa Kirby that earned her the Oscar nomination, the delicate one-shot cinematography that doesn't do anything really flashy, but just stays on that moment and doesn't let you escape the tension. There's a lot of really good filmmaking in this movie. There's aspects of it that I didn't think worked quite as well, but yeah, you have to at least see that opening, because it is stunning work.
Incredible cast just all around. Like, she got the nomination as well, but supporting all around was fantastic. I did not expect Eliza Schlesinger to be that good. I mean, take a comedian, put him in a drama, and they'll surprise you. So I'm very curious to see how her acting career is going to go from here. But I thought all around it was a very solid cast that the movie had.
Shia LaBeouf, Ellen Burstyn,
and again, just
Betty Safdie, Sarah Snook,
oh my gosh,
Molly Parker.
there was a Safdie bro in here too. I forgot. And now they're in the Star Wars universe too.
And a Succession sibling.
Oh man, but yeah, no, definitely highly. Oh, Sarah Snook was in this. That's right. Yeah. It's a pretty good movie. It's over on Netflix. Definitely check it out. And it's very personal to the filmmaking duo, because they're partners, the writer and the director. And I know it has some personal, possibly anecdotes, that stuff that they went through. So definitely check it out.
Number 6 is a documentary that you highly recommended. It's the highest ranking documentary on our list so far.
Have you seen it?
It's Apple TV Plus's Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry, an intimate look at the singer-songwriter's journey. I haven't caught up with this one yet, but yeah, remind us why you liked it.
I feel I haven't recommended it enough then at that point. Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry, is one, surprisingly, the only thing Apple has given us in a while in terms of movies. So for that alone, I'd say that they finally have a movie out.
Yeah.
And makes
the less said about Cherry, the better.
Like, exactly. It's been 3 months. We're a quarter into the year, and this is the one good movie that they've given us. But even if it wasn't released on Apple, I think it is a fantastic documentary and inside look at her as an artist, at their family as well, but then also what it means to not just be young and thrust into the celebrity age, but into the digital age, how she can see every criticism right away. Like, this isn't an artist who 2 days later, she'll read what they said about her. No, like the day her album drops, that Pitchfork review is out, right? The people, her fans, anyone who she's interacting with, they're how far away? They're like, you just tweet at her and she's going to get every notification. You see her following her DMs. You see her going through the ins and outs of like barely being able to own a car and her freedom, all of the intricacies when it comes to the business side of having to meet all of the A&R people. It is interesting to see this be an Apple movie, considering Apple Music and just the way Apple releases things. But nonetheless, I think RJ Cutler did a good job in breaking it down. I'm curious to see you watch it, because I want to have a whole discussion on this new, it's not even new, but just the writing credits in documentaries I find to be very fascinating. Without spoiling an aspect of it, there is a really big relationship in the movie that dissolves, but I feel like one side of the story wasn't told, and that kind of goes back to the writing credit, in where you are only seeing it from a certain perspective in order to be able to have that narrative that you want for, I don't want to call it a character because it's a documentary, but for that. It is also divided down the middle too, because there's an intermission. It's long.
Yeah. There's something about these documentaries about musicians or about famous people in general that are co-signed by the person who's in it, in that to an extent they feel like promotional tools, and I wonder how much of that feeling you're getting is the that's agreed upon narrative.
Too, he claims he had full reign, even though they were the ones who called him up. He was filming them before the Grammys. This is all before they moved out even of their home. Like, these two were homeschooled. Obviously, that's one of the big parts of the documentary, is how she's creating music with her brother, how it's her family who's there by her side everywhere that she travels in. And I'm sure you can watch this movie and kind of see more negative lights in it. But he claims that he had no oversight, that this is his director's cut, and damn, it's pretty long. I don't think anything got cut. But I think I enjoy it because, as much as you can definitely argue that it's very commercial, it also kind of seeps into some things that I really enjoyed seeing in the creative process, and how even as a family, they're worried about certain things that can happen to her with all this celebrity status. I mean, Vanity Fair, I believe, has that series with her that they definitely don't exploit on, all right, let's have you here 4 years ago, and then we'll follow you up 3 years ago watching that video. And they're kind of banking on how more depressed she gets seeing that smile from 4 years ago diminish, so that is kind of weird. But I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a raw inside look at her right here at her beginnings, and it'll be interesting to follow up on her 10 years from now, because I do think she's a good artist. And I know that a big part of it is like, oh, studio plant. Well, studio plants, if they still deliver, at what point are they still making music that's reaching people? And I think she's earned the recognition that she's gotten, and I think she made a really good, or RJ Cutler made a really good documentary on her as a subject.
Absolutely. All right. We'll get into our top 5 only bangers from here on out. Really excited to bring up the next one again. It's Test Pattern, a movie that we definitely talked about at some point, because I think it's one of the more stunning movies we've gotten so far into this year. Following a couple whose relationship is put to the test after an incident, I think this is a really fascinating look at some of the little frustrations that come with seeking healthcare or seeking help, even seeking, like legal help, going through those pathways. There's just so little justice found along the path in this story, and it's told with such humanity in following this couple through all their little trials and tribulations here. The amount of empathy that is on display, but in a realistic way that I think kind of is like a model for other people. I was so moved by so much of what this movie's doing. To me, it's kind of like gives you that feeling of never, rarely, sometimes, always with its intimacy, but in a somewhat different direction. Really, really powerful stuff from Shatara Michelle Ford, the writer-director. Really great acting from the cast here: Brittany S. Hall, Will Brill, Gail Bean. This is, to me, is one of the standouts of the year, and I'm hoping this is gonna stick around on some lists, at least at the halfway point, if not the end of 2020.
I hope so.
So yeah,
agree.
Test Pattern.
100%.
Number 4 is a movie that you've been hyping up for a long time on this show. It may not have gotten the nomination for Mexico's submission to the Academy Awards, but I know it's one in your heart. Identifying Features, about a mother traveling across Mexico in search of her son, whom authorities say died while traveling across the border to the United States. Art, tell me again, what is so special about this movie?
This is, I believe, the first movie we caught at Sundance of that year for 2020. I know won some Gotham Awards, so it did get some love from the more independent circuits award-wise, but I just thought it was a fascinating look at this mother trying, her hardest to find her son, and just what happens when you have not just a border story, but a story of... I don't want to spoil it. I feel like this is... I know we partly had a half discussion about this, but I think it's one of those where there's a lot of artsy movies that are out there. And I know this one's very slow paced and it may not be for everybody, but I think it delivers on a lot of aspects that get lost in translation. I think the best factor of it would be the name itself, right? It's Sin Señas Particulares, but in English, it is the complete opposite. It's not non-identifying features. It's identifying features, and I think that may be one of the biggest things that's missed within here. So it's kind of hard to describe what I really love about it without getting into spoilers, because I feel that's part of the aspects that has been missed, that isn't really discussed, and that's kind of like the point of the movie. But I don't know. I love the journey that it takes you on, and I think that it hits hard at the end. That's what I will say about this movie, and I hope that some people give it a chance, even if it is at home, because I know it may be a little slow. I know there's a lot of just shots of bokeh here and there, but I think it delivers on the emotions of what a lot of people are going through. And yeah, I will say that.
Definitely. Number 3 is The Father, about a man refusing all assistance from his daughter. You finally got it. As he tries to make sense of his changing circumstances. Yeah, I think we can bring hashtag Let Zack See the Father to an end, because I've seen The Father.
And did it deliver?
I've seen this movie.
I mean, it's number 3.
You know what? It did. It did. I was surprised with quite how much I liked this movie. A really, really interestingly told look at a man battling his own mind. There's, I think, something that was an obstacle for me going into this movie is that we've been getting more of these dementia movies or Alzheimer movies, and a lot of them are very heavy and ask you to really feel the suffering and alienation of that disease and that process. I think something that The Father does that's really interesting is it kind of pulls a Memento in a way, whereas most of these movies, I think, show you what the process looks like from the outside, shows you what the process might look like from the perspective of a loved one. The Father flips it to really put you in the main character's shoes and show you what it must be like to not be able to trust the world around you. And the execution of it is done so fascinatingly, because it's done in a way to give you just enough that you feel like you have like a toehold, but not enough where you ever feel like you fully know what's going on. Like they one thing that I noticed is they show you more characters than they have characters' names in a way, like just in a way where you're constantly like, is that person or is that another person? And I don't know. It's really effective. I think just on a filmmaking level, the way it's able to keep you in this perpetual state of confusion is excellent. I was really, really surprised how effective this was as like a horror movie, you know?
Acting all around, fantastic. Production, art design, absolutely incredible. I think it is a solid script. It is a movie that I think more people should have on their radar, and I hope that it got a little bit more recognition because, as I've been saying, I still think that this is the best performance of the year from Anthony Hopkins, and I also think Olivia Colman did a really great job. And I don't remember if she got a nomination or not for it, but
yeah, she got nominated.
Okay. I won't mind her taking this one too.
Yeah, supporting actress is one of the interesting Oscar races right now. I think most people think that Yoo Jung-yoon from Minari is going to take it, but you know, a lot of people like Olivia Colman. She has won not so long ago, so
she wasn't that bad, was
maybe
she?
She's got a shot. Yeah, Anthony did pick up the BAFTA ahead of Chadwick Boseman, which a lot of people were surprised by. Although it is kind of in the BAFTA's history to recognize somebody like Anthony Hopkins in that kind of a role. But you know, I still think Chadwick Boseman's ultimately going to win. I still think it's a shame that Delroy Lindo didn't get nominated, but it's an excellent Anthony Hopkins performance. You know, I think when on the day of the Oscars, because so many people hadn't seen The Father, there was a lot of people who were like, "This is our random Oscar bait movie that nobody's seen, we're just giving a nomination to Anthony Hopkins." And it's not the case at all. It is actually one of the best movies out there in the Oscars bunch.
Very good.
At number 2 is our highest ranking foreign film. Movie that we caught, or you caught last year. Art, tell me more about True Mothers.
We had the chance to catch this over at Chicago Fest from Naomi Kawase. I actually went back and saw a lot of her older films. Like, this woman recorded herself giving birth. Like, she has made some wild movies, and many of which were documentaries. So that explained one big aspect about this movie, where you're following a couple who they have a child, but a woman appears, very young woman, and says that it may be hers. And from there, you get this story not only on their relationship, but as you know, as a mother, it's breaking down from both of their perspectives how they approach it, how they handle it, and that has been something that this director has covered. Not only because she was raised by her grandmother, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, unless it was a great aunt. Just that dynamic, something that she's always had in her career about maternity, and I think this movie does a fantastic job not only following their story, but the way that it switches up the filmmaking. That's why I said going back and following her filmography to see all the docs that she has done. That's why it feels so hybrid at a certain point in the movie, where it switches a setting and it starts being like it's filmed in a way more intimate way than it previously felt, where it was a little bit more scripted. And I thought it was very effective. And then going back and seeing what she's worked on, I think definitely pushed that forward. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I'm very curious to see what other people think about it. I know it's also based off of a novel. I have not been able to read that, so I don't know what has been switched from there. But I thought it was a very fascinating story. And it reminds me, not too much, but a little bit of, I don't know if you remember the movie, also a foreign film called Like Father, Like Son. I thought that was a fantastic movie as well. I prefer that one over this one, but I know for Alina, like that one, this one got her on the mom's side. For me, I guess it was the father's side over there with that movie that really resonated with me. But I would definitely put this one on your radar. Very curious to see what people think about this one. Once it gets, I feel like now the wider release is when it hits a streaming service. It's like once it hits the streaming service and it gets that wide release, I'm curious to see what people think about it.
Definitely. So, lot of good movies that have come out so far in 2021, but I don't think it's much of a surprise, the movie that we put at number 1, because we've been talking about it a lot.
Can I do some honorable mentions?
Yeah,
Leave the people waiting just a little bit more for the movie that we've been talking about all the time, but they may not know. I think Promising...
I'll throw in some too.
Dope. Promising Young Woman, I think, got a wider release, or will we not be considering that?
Yeah, it's technically a 2020, so I didn't put it on the list.
Dear Comrades, would that be considered one?
Maybe,
because these releases are so weird, dude. I don't really know how they work. Another one that I would say is The Dissident was another doc that I know got released in January. You're not supposed to talk about that one, but it's a very good documentary that I'd say put on your radar, along with Finding Ying Ying. I don't know if Assassins got the release this year, right? I believe that also got the release this year.
Yeah. I think it got a theatrical release last year, but maybe like a VOD release this year.
Bro, we don't know anymore. Yeah, like, you know.
Yeah.
But those are ones that I definitely think are worth the shout out. Another smaller comedy, I guess, to add to the list would be Baby Done, a movie that I know was released in VOD a little earlier. Got the co-sign by Taika Waititi about a couple who, you know, I believe they're reaching their 30s, if not already 30, and they're realizing, okay, got to check that box. Baby Done. And fun little New Zealand comedy that I would say put on your radar. Hopefully it gets a bigger streaming release. And Saint Maud, I believe you caught Saint Maud.
Yeah, I liked Saint Maud. Interesting horror movie. You know, not necessarily one of my favorites. I think that's an A24, and you know, I think you just because it's A24, you put it up against all these other artistic A24 horror movies that we've gotten recently. It's solid though, and really good performance in the central role.
And also shout out Minari for those who consider that a 2020, because I know it's got its release. Obviously, what else you got?
It's tough again because like I'm looking at my 2021 list and it's a lot of movies that haven't come out yet or whatever, because like we talked about before we started that we can't put Shiva Baby on this list even though it's out at the time we're recording this, but we're talking the first 3 months.
Zach, we cannot put Shiva Baby. We cannot recommend Shiva Baby on this list, okay? So we will not be recommending Shiva Baby out in virtual theaters.
No one should see Shiva Baby based on our best movies of the first 3 months list.
No.
That's not the reason you should see Shiva Baby. Gunda was another one that I thought, but according to IMDb, its official release isn't until next week, even though I think it was part of that Neon package. I don't really understand how any of this
That's what I've been
works.
telling you, and I've been saying this for the longest time because I'm always getting hit with copyrights, and I've been telling you, I was like, I don't understand the system, and they won't let us know how the system works. Yes, there are a lot of movies that are getting released theatrically, but or VOD, but not theatrically. You can rent it, but you can't buy them. You can buy them, but you can't rent them.
Two movies that we saw at Sundance, that have had a release, but smaller ones. The World to Come, which I thought was a really sweet period romance.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, good performances in that one, and I think Violation is out on Shudder.
Violation
that one, also really compelling, you know, retelling of this kind of revenge story. So lots of good stuff that came out at some point this year.
Supernova, that's I guess another one to add. Decent performances there as well. Sophie Jones, that was another solid one. Also dealing with grief after the fact. So
yeah. And you know, eventually we'll get Zola and we'll get the Truffle Hunters. I don't think we have yet. Night of the Kings, I think that's out.
That is
I think
out.
It's available.
It was available on the package.
I don't understand it. Anyway, lots of good stuff that's come out so far this year, or that will still come out this year. But should we get into the number one that everybody probably knows is our number one already?
The only movie to have two lead actors. Let's go. Or sorry, two supporting actors.
Two supporting actors in the leads. Judas and the Black Messiah, the story of Fred Hampton, chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, and his fateful betrayal by FBI informant William O'Neill. Director Shaka King's a historical thriller that gives you a biopic within the story of this FBI informant. It's like, you know, it's partly biopic, partly Departed. I think there are people who have their issues with the film not being more about Fred Hampton and his politics, but I think that's like a misreading of the kind of movie this is trying to be. This is a historical thriller. This is giving you, you know, the structure of an action movie within the bounds of history, and I think Shaka King does a really excellent job of balancing that, of giving you both, of putting you in a time and a place, transporting you, informing you, but also creating enough of like a thrilling, you know, empathetic and entertaining ride that makes this just a dynamic watch with really excellent aspects to it. The acting here is so great, particularly Daniel Kaluuya, who is bound to win an Oscar for this performance. It seems like at this point. We were blown away by this movie, frankly, out of Sundance. It was the top of our Sundance rankings and remains the top of, I think, maybe all of our lists so far in 2021.
So we're including this one as our 2021 top 10 of the year, technically, right? Because we can't really go and redo our top 10 of 2020, even though
Nobody
it is
saw it in 2020.
I know. That's true. We didn't even see it till a whole month into, literally right before the fest ended as well. So, no, this is definitely one that you need to have on your radar. It was part of the release with HBO doing the theatrical thing while also being on HBO Max. I know that after like another month or two, it ends up being released on Vudu and everything else for you to rent and eventually buy. And I think that this is one to definitely have on your radar. Like Zack said, it is not... it says inspired by true events. The title is Judas and the Black Messiah, so it's not an in-depth look at what's going on in terms of his entire history. I definitely do think he deserves an entire biopic in and of itself. Definitely deserves to have been done much better than what they did with him in Trial of the Chicago 7. But I think it hits at the emotions. I think that they had the family, the Hampton family there, not just, his partner, but his son, all adding to the story, making sure that they were doing it justice, how he was, all the inflections on the speech in that. I think it is one of the best performances of the year, and I think it is a movie we're going to remember at the end of the decade.
Absolutely. So, Judas and the Black Messiah, if we haven't said it enough by now, definitely catch this movie. It is a standout from 2021. There's a reason that it's been doing so well. We're big fans of this movie. Definitely want to see even more from Shaka King in the future too because of this. So yeah, those are our favorite movies from 2021 so far. Let us know if you have any others that we missed from the first 3 months of this year, and maybe what your favorite movie is so far into 2021. Try to keep it to 2021. I don't know, like, it's tough.
I don't care. Go for it. Give us movies from 5 years ago.
That
like, have you seen Inception?
What's the best movie that you saw? Even if you saw like the new, even if you saw The Screech Charm of the Bourgeoisie in the last week, just tell us that you like that one.
Did you just catch Wizard of Oz? Let us know down below.
All right, so let's wrap this up with some picks for the week, a few recommendations for the people to watch at home. Art, do you have any picks for the week?
Invincible, the series out on Amazon Prime. I believe they are 4 or 5 episodes in, and it is a pretty solid show. I would highly recommend the graphic novel as well. I believe, I think he completed it. I'm not sure. Robert Kirkman, same dude who did The Walking Dead. This is his take on the superhero genre, and I think it is a fantastic series. Both written.
Have you caught all 5 episodes so far?
If the last one was about that Kingpin, Stone Cold dude, then yes, I have.
Yes. So I have a question for you as somebody who's read the comics, because I am enjoying the show so far.
I'm like watching the show going, that's right.
Does it maintain this level of brutality throughout? Because it has a Walking Dead like pace with which it will churn through supporting characters.
I believe I have gone through 60-70% of the series, the graphic novel.
Yeah.
And all of it, I think, lives up to it. There are things that they have not touched upon yet that I cannot wait for people to experience, and it's going to be good. I can see this running for 3-4 seasons without it getting stale. Let's say that.
Yeah.
It's a good series.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because it is a little bit light and fluffy. It's kind of it doesn't have this kind of cynical almost like condescending aspect of The Boys, which is something that I like about The Boys, but I think it makes it very easy to watch, and then it will get into these moments that are just unexpectedly a gut punch, and I'll just be sitting there happily enjoying my superhero cartoon, and then suddenly your heart sinks,
like it's brutal.
And I really like that about the show. It's surprising me in some ways. I like the voice performances a lot, so I'm curious to see where Invincible continues to go. You have any more?
Two Distant Strangers, the short film that's nominated for an Oscar starring Joey Badass, that is
Let's
out
go.
On Netflix. Pretty good. Did you see the screener to Tunde Johnson?
No, I haven't.
So Tunde Johnson kind of covers the exact a similar scenario where it's this Groundhog Day type thing, in where
this is a movie that was in South by. The Obituary of Tunde Johnson. What you're talking
Was
about.
it?
I think so.
I know it was a New Fest for sure. Anyways, both of the short and this feature, and even a YouTube video that's called Black Groundhog Day, I believe, all cover the same story. You know, Joey Badass is leaving this apartment, and he keeps getting stopped by a cop. And the day continues to get played over and over. You caught it, right?
I know I haven't.
Okay, so the day continues to play over and over and over again, and like there's this connection that these two have, these two distant strangers. And well, I'm very curious to. I recommend it, but I ain't overly love it because I think I've seen it done better, and that would be in the YouTube video. Because again, this has become like a. I don't even want to call it. I mean, the Groundhog Day has become a genre in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're going to see it be done in a lot of different ways. And like I said, there is a whole feature film version of it. I do believe the short is better than the feature film version, which is The Obituary of Tunde Johnson. And I love what Joey Badass brings to the performance. And I'm very curious to see him do more stuff because I've also seen ASAP. He's about to be on Netflix as well with the movie Monster. I think Joey may have some more that he brings to the table because there is some stuff that may get a little too cliche or like, it's that talking point. But it is. But he almost kind of sells you on it, and that's why I want to say that. Like, I do want to recommend it. But I'm curious what people think about it. I want to say it's roughly 30 minutes long. Still rooting for White Eye though to win it.
Okay, cool. I'm definitely curious to check it out, especially now that it is available on Netflix. You know, for a while we weren't sure where it was going to be available, but it's able to be seen by a lot of people before the Oscars.
Yes, sir.
So that's a cool one. As far as my recommendation for pick of the week, a couple things that I did not really expect to choose. First of all, I'm going with City of Lies here. I don't know
the Johnny Depp one.
What? Yeah, this is the Johnny Depp, Forrest Whitaker conspiracy thriller looking at the murders of Biggie and Tupac, or although more specifically the murder of Tupac, and these crazy theories about like who's actually behind it, the LAPD being involved in the cover up and trying to dig to the bottom of it. It has the kind of like speculative wildness of a like Discovery Plus documentary. There's just whole sections that are narrated by Johnny Depp's character as they show you archival footage and like different photos and try to recreate the scene. But I kind of enjoyed some of that conspiracy thriller aspect of it. You know, there's a lot of very weirdly expositional dialogue, and I don't know if I buy half of what the movie is selling. Particularly, the dynamics between the characters feel weird, but there's still just a intoxicating nature to getting sucked into the conspiracy of it, particularly one that is so closely tied to something that I think any pop culture fan would find fascinating, the story around these murders.
Okay.
There's enough there that I kind of liked this movie. I don't really like what Johnny Depp is doing in this movie or whatever, but it's an enjoyable ride for by the end I found myself compelled, even as I was laughing at some of the things they were saying. So
I'm seeing the director did The Lincoln Lawyer. I thought that was decent movie.
This one has sat on the shelf for a little while. I think they filmed this one back in 2017, maybe 18. So it's been sitting around waiting for a release and is kind of getting dumped here, but not half bad if I'm telling the truth.
All right. I will be sure to check this out. City of Lies, a story uncovering the Biggie Tupac case. Okay. I didn't even know that's what it was about.
Yeah, something that I liked even a little bit more than that one is a new horror movie that is available on VOD now, Honeydew. It's about a couple that is seeking shelter on a road trip. They go camping, and then their car breaks down, and they happen upon the wrong house. It is one of those movies where there is something creepy happening, and they are reluctant to. They don't quite leave right away and stick around a little bit too long. I don't want to spoil what is happening because that's some of the fun is finding out what's going on here. I do think the movie is very good at giving you a really unsettled feeling. There's a lot of stuff they're doing with sound design in particular to just leave you uncomfortable, leave you guessing what's really happening. There's things they'll do where they'll play a vocal, like a vocal note, and you'll feel like, is that what that person is saying? And then you'll realize it's just part of the score. Ooh. It does a lot of things really interestingly, including some cutaways. Ultimately, I feel like a lot of the things they do are just being creepy for the sake of being creepy. I don't know if the story justifies it all, but I like the execution enough that I enjoyed a lot of aspects to this. I think there's a lot of just satisfyingly unsettling moments, cuts that jar you in a way that I, wasn't expecting. The writer-director, Devereaux Milburn, I'd be curious to see what else they come up with in the future, because there's some interesting stuff here, even if maybe it is a little bit underwhelming by the end, and I don't know if it all comes together. It's really creepy. Also, without spoiling it, this has one of the weirdest celebrity cameos I've ever seen in a movie. I am not underselling it here. Okay. There's a person who shows up, and I literally said, what the fuck? What the fuck? I'm not going to spoil it, but please just go watch this movie. Don't go look it up on IMDb. It doesn't have a good rating on IMDb anyway. Just trust me. Watch this movie and at least wait for the cameo.
Will do.
And then lastly, I saw The Father. We just talked about it.
I told you, dude.
But I recommend you watch The Father too. It's a movie you can rent. Yeah. But that's about all for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zack Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's ZSHEV as in versus ICH. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at LME Explain, rewatching the Billie Eilish doc for the umpteenth time. Twitter, Letterboxd, all that good stuff for every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we run through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of the podcast every Monday, and please leave us a comment, like the videos, consider heading over to iTunes to give us that 5-star review. Shout out to listeners in Ireland for putting us on the TV and film podcast charts out there.
Appreciate
Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at Intercut Pod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, that podcast is filling your head with garbage.
Bro, the City of Lies poster has Biggie Smalls in the back. Oh, that's ugly.
What's the movie about? I don't know.
I never know. I didn't even realize it's Biggie in the back.